Hey there, this is Brian, and we are going to be building shadows cast from a box. So let me back up just for a second here. I built all this up in layers so we could look at what we did. So first step I did is I drew, let's turn off some of these. I drew my box and my picture plane. So this is the picture plane, the entire thing, of course. Wow, let's go all across. All right, and we put our box touching the corner of the picture plane right there. So that will give us a accurate measurement on the picture plane. All right, next step I did is I picked a station point, which is here, SP, and I drew lines parallel to the two sides to get my vanishing points 1 and 2. And the next step I did was I first found my cone of vision, and that is a 60-degree cone with that could be 30 on each side if you have your adjustable triangles. And so I just want to make sure my box is in my cone of vision. So notice I've picked a little bit of a distance away, and that box is well in with my cone of vision. And the last thing, I've got my center line of vision, which is this line right there. And see how that's kind of box is balanced more or less within that center line. So that means this should come out more or less undistorted. All right, and then next step is we drew a side view of our box. Now this is the ground line, the yellow line right here. And now, undo it. Alright, so that's my ground line. So I drew up my box on there, and then I did something here. You don't have to do this step, but I was trying to figure out where the flaps would be. So don't worry about this if you don't understand what's going on, but I'm just going to explain it to you real quick. At first I drew two arcs with the center here and going halfway across the box. See, I drew my X's here. Let me do this in a different layer so I can mark this up. All right, in red. All right, so I already have my box, which is this, the red. And then I drew the diagonal, both of these, to find the center line. And once again, don't worry about this part if you get lost. And then I said, okay, here's the center line. If I had a flap that was going to my center line, as I opened it up in any degree, it should be that length following that circle. So that's what that arc is there. So I picked my compass and I put it right there, and I went to the halfway mark and I drew an arc around here. Anyway, so all of that is to say I found this line right here. I said that looks like a nice shallow, comfortable angle. And then this is where it gets a little tricky, but I decided, all right, now I'm going to transfer that into my drawing, but I need to also find out the view down here. So let's see if we can, if we got that. Okay, let me back up here. So what I did is went from my station point. Sorry, let's get this more in view. Went from my station point. Let me turn this back on so you can draw on here. I'm trying to do this real quick because I don't want to belabor this part of it, but just this is refresh. Anyway, so from each corner I went to my station point, and where they crossed, this green mark crosses the picture plane. Remember, we're always trying to project to the picture plane. So then from that point, where that crossed, then I went up and drew my vertical lines. So that's what I've got right here now. And now, let's turn it back off again for a second. So what I did is I transferred this line in from the height of the box to figure out this corner, so I could start from there, and then started drafting from there to my vanishing points that I have already pre-established. From there to there, there to there, and where they cross all these lines, I can start blocking out my box. Ooh, that's a little crookedy. and then going back and back. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off and turn this on. So that's how I built my box. Now the flaps, you ask, you could just put your flaps in there, but what I did, and this I may lose you here, but turn this back on for a second. And let's erase all these guys. So I have this one flap that's right here. So I brought the height in over to here, and then the height runs up here. So I'm basically building a new kind of box level at that height. And I know it's going to, that flap is going to now transfer back in perspective somewhere along here. But how far? So that's what I did here is I dropped the line straight down and I measured this distance from here to here. And I knew that this box and this box, this one and this one are related. Get rid of those. So I took that same measurement and measured from here to here. So that's what that flap looks like from the top view. And then I went from that corner here and back to my station point, across the picture plane here, and I went up, and I'm a little bit off. Went up and up and up to this point right here. So where this line crossed over to my true measurement line, and then back in perspective and across that line, then that's where I knew my flap would be. So the next step I was mentioning, I went back to, so I've got this line, I went to a point directly above the vanishing point, and which level am I on here? Yeah. So I went up, sorry, I went up to here, to this vanishing point, and then this is the vanishing point for my box, so I could come back down, box flap, there and there, and now I know from this corner where those two met up, I got to go back to that vanishing point, and that built me my first flap. Okay, well, like I said, if that's too confusing, don't worry about that. Just drawing some flaps that look reasonable. That's what I did on the second one. I picked an angle, and I forgot where my vanishing point is for that one, but oops, let's do this again. I just picked a random angle that happened to go right there, and that's directly above that vanishing point, and then I went back and that gave me my other side. And in this case I just kind of guessed and said, yeah, that looks about right, so I went back to my vanishing point over there. Okay, so I got my box. That's the easy part. Now let's start building shadows. So as you recall, what we want, and with this particular thing we're doing the sunlight directly above the picture plane, and we'll do it like some people ask, can we do it at a 30-degree angle? Sure, let's just do it at a 30-degree angle. That way you can use your 30-degree triangle. So down here I can see my angles, and I'm going to go up, and actually this is a 30-60-degree triangle. Oops, sorry, this way. So in this case it's measuring the 60 degree there. Okay, so that's what your 30-60 degree angle looks like. So let's start building this, and I'm going to turn this layer down a little bit so we can still see the box, and let's change our color to something different, green. Alright, so as you recall, let me get rid of this for a second. Let me zoom in here so we can see this. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to first go vertically, pick each point, and we'll just figure out each point as it is. So this is my first flagpole here, and I've drawn horizontally across, I've drawn up, and now I'm going to use my 30-degree thing and go from the top of the flagpole down to this horizontal line, and where they cross, that is my first point. And let's make that a little red dot so we can see it. All right, so we'll do the flap first. So now I'm going to go back to green, and I'm going to do this piece. And this is where I was talking in class about we need to figure out, well, where is that base of this flagpole, because we have the top. So because these flaps are going to close in this box, I know they should be, if they were out vertical, they would be a continuation of this line. So I'm going to project this out from the side of the box, and then I project down, and that's only given me my flagpole. This is where you have to kind of really pay attention, because I did this first piece just to get the flagpole. Now I have to find the measuring point. So go vertical off, bring my 30-degree triangle in. Oh, I changed it. So I'm going to go back to, in this case, 60. 60, okay. So now I go across, and where those two meet, there's my second point, and let's mark that with a red dot. Okay, so that represents this point up here, this point up here. We know those are connected, so these must be connected. And we're not worrying about the side here yet, because we're just going to kind of work at each piece as it goes along and then decide where we need to trim it or not. And I'm going to stop in a minute and then restart a new one, just video, so that we don't go too long. All right, so all right, let's do this second edge over here. So same deal. I got to find the base of this flagpole. Let's go to this one first because it's easier. So I'm going to consider this flagpole from there to there. Where is the beginning and end of that? So first, go off vertically. And this green looks a little light, so let's do that a little bit darker. And then I'll bring in my 30-60-degree triangle and go from the top here down to that. I didn't quite cross over. And once again, let's go back to red and circle our point. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is a little trickier, as I said. So I'm going to go back to, so there's a vertical dropping down from this point, but I need to go back in perspective, follow this line to project out to find where that base is. And it's right there. So once again, it was all just to find the flagpole. Now I'm going to go off horizontally and bring my ruler back in here and go from the top of my new flagpole that I just discovered down to the base. And there is my second point. Once again, that represents this, and those two are connected. So that means these two are connected. Now, we just also know that this one and that one are connected. So these two must also be connected. All right, so we're getting somewhere. Here's a tricky point right here where this comes up and it meets the side of this box. We know it's going to go up to this point. There's basically light leaking under this flap. So this is going to go from this point right down to where it crosses, where it starts on that surface. So basically this went across and then it goes up to the top point. And then I can erase all this stuff inside. So I'm starting to build it out. This is one flap. Let's build this side. Now I'm doing my box with only 2 flaps, and I'm going to let you guys decide if you want to try all 4 flaps or just 2. But let's do this whole side, so this should be relatively quick. I need this flag pole here, and so I go vertically off and bring my 30-60, and I'm going to go 30 degrees across. And once again, this 30 degrees is something arbitrary. If you have an adjustable triangle, you can make it anything you want. I'm losing my place here. That's the point right there. Okay, so that represents that point. This represents that point. This and this are connected, so therefore this and that are connected. So that represents this side. Now we actually have the shadows running around the back, and we got the flap. what I was mentioning to you guys in class, that there's something interesting about shadows, is that all these top surfaces are going to stay parallel. All the vertical surfaces are not going to represent anything. So what that means is, I'm going to turn this layer off in a second, but let's do purple. That means that this line, even though I was just connecting points, should go to this vanishing point, because that, actually take that back. We haven't done that yet. This line here is parallel, and it goes to the vanishing point. Same with this one, and same with this. So I should be able to follow this up and find out that, yes, I did my math correct, because it goes to that vanishing point. All right, so let's build this last flap here real quick. So I'm going to project this line out, and I shouldn't do this in purple. Let's go back to green. So project that line out somewhere, and then I'm going to drop down. That's just to find our flagpole. Okay, there's our flagpole. And now, since I have my flagpole, I'm going to go from the base outward and my 3060 to find that angle, and once again, red marks this spot, which represents that spot. This spot we already built, right? We know this one and this one are connected through here, so these two got to be connected. Let me get my straight line and connect those two. Okay, here's what I was talking about. This edge right here, that's that edge. The shadow should stay parallel to that. It can't really, it's on a flat surface, that's going parallel to the vanishing point. So at this point, I could actually just go all the way back to my vanishing point, draw a line from there to there, and erase everything in between. Oops. And that should be my back edge. So there is the shadow, the outside shadow of the box. And I'm checking my time. Oh, we're doing good. Now we got to do the inside of the box. So we got to kind of pretend the box is transparent again. And we're just going to worry about this back edge, which I'll do in green. And I'm talking about this one right here. So there's the flagpole. And we're going to go off horizontally. Bring in my 3060 or whatever angle you want. And draw that one. That goes down to here. And now that means that this spot represents that corner. And so technically these two sides connect, right? Or this side, just draw that. This side, so that represents these two dots down here, so those two should connect. So now the tricky thing is, inside this box we don't really see anything, but we do know that these kind of vertical lines, when they go across, this is representing right this point right here is the point where this crosses the back wall. And so I just got to go up from that point up to this corner to create that last edge. And all we're going to see is the inside that one little tiny edge. And do anything else? No, I don't think we do. And so let's shade this in. So you see, is this all in one layer? No, it is not. I'm going to put this layer in with that layer. Okay, so there's all my box info. Here's all my shadow info. And I'm just going to do something because I'm going to use my eyedropper, or sorry, paint bucket tool. So I need to just trace out these corners so that the paint bucket doesn't spill out. So just give me a second here. That goes across, goes down, and this is going to be in here. Alright, so now let's try our paint bucket and see if this works. Don't know if this is going to work. Let's get something a little more dark. Okay, so that's the inside of the box, and we're going to change this layer to multiply so we can still see our lines. This should be the side of the box. Let's go slightly different each time. Sorry, don't worry about it. I'm just trying to fill in all these spots. So there's one side of the box, and then the shadow. Let's go lighter still on the shadow. And that is this point there, and something accidentally filled in right there. So that was not supposed to be filled in, and neither was this portion here. Sorry about that, my bad. And we're almost done. Okay, so I'm going to pay attention when you're doing all this stuff. So that's the shadow of this box. So part of it is going into the box, part of it is on the outside of the surfaces, and then part of it's on the ground. And let's turn that down a little bit so we can see our main lines. There we go. He's done. All right, I hope this helps, guys. Like I said, you can do these extra flaps, and or you could do something totally different. So this is just for those who decide to do the box with the shadows.